Would you?
No. Yeah, I get that. Good evening. Welcome to this meeting of the Milton Board of Selectmen. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Tonight, one of our members, Mr. Farrington, will be participating by telecommunications, which is phone. So given that pursuant to 940 CMR 2910, subsection 7 of the Massachusetts General Laws, the chair of the meeting shall announce the name of any member who is participating remotely, and as I stated, is Anthony J. Farrington. And the reason of the 940 CMR 29-10-5 for his remote participation, which in this case is his work commitment. The information shall also be recorded in the meeting minutes. All votes taken during any meeting in which a member participates remotely shall be taken by roll call vote, and tonight there was only one vote and one agenda item to deal with. Additionally, a member participating remotely may participate in an executive session, but shall state at the start of any such session that no other person is present and are able to hear the discussion at the remote location, and there will be no executive session tonight. The proposed announcement pursuant to, again, 940 CMR 29-10, subsection 2A alpha, remote participation is allowed by the town of Milton. Due to a work commitment, Anthony J. Farrington is unable to attend in person and will participate remotely via telephone. Thank you. So we have called this meeting as a follow-up to our Monday night meeting, which was June 25th, where we heard a proposal by Attorney Tom Doherty of the town of Milton relative to draft legislation that we voted in the affirmative to forward to the FAA for hopeful approval, if I say this correctly. This is something that's been on the radar for the new members. This has been on our radar for some time. Member Conlon has worked on it quite a bit, has been familiar with it. Myself, even not being on either the ANAC or any of the airplane committees, I was familiar with this. I believe this first came to us from Mr. Dennehy on June 6th, am I correct? Right around that date, our first notification. And last week we received a request from Mr. Doherty to be placed on the agenda, which we did, and he came and presented in front of us. So the reason for tonight's meeting is just as the City of Boston's City Council voted unanimously 13-0 to support this legislation, I thought it might be fair to let the two members who voted in the dissent or negative to rethink their vote if they wish, and to possibly vote in the affirmative with the other three, with the majority members. Just the only follow-up I have to that, and if Ms. Conlon wishes to speak to this, our ANAC, our Airplane Noise Advisory Committee, did meet, I believe, last night to discuss this, and did notify each of us today via email of their support for Attorney Doherty's draft. So if either Mr. Farrington or Mrs. Collins need to hear a report out from Ms. Conlon on that, I will do so. If not, we can waive that part of it and go right to the vote, or I'd hear any comments that either one of you have first, if you feel, or questions if you feel you need.
Well,
I'll go to Mrs. Collins first.
I received an email from the chair, I think as we all did.
The chair of the ANAC.
The chair of the Airplane Noise Advisory Committee. And I also was able to get some of my additional questions answered, which has really been very helpful to me. So I'm ready to affirm my commitment to having this sent forward. I don't know if it would be helpful for people, residents, to hear something. I think that the two of you, Selectman Conlon and Selectman Zulus, can judge whether that needs to occur or not, since it was a public meeting and there are meeting minutes, and perhaps it's not necessary.
Do you mean on Attorney Doherty's presentation?
Well, no,
Oh.
on the
ANAC?
Airplane Noise Advisory Committee meeting last night. I don't
Is
know.
that televised? Is that televised?
No.
No, but there are minutes, so I
Right.
didn't.
Mike and I were both there, and actually Mike was there I came in a little bit late. I had a work commitment myself last night, so maybe Mike is in the best position to talk about their discussion. I heard the tail end of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any notes with me, and so I don't want to mischaracterize anything. I think it's fair to say that there was support from everyone. There were some suggestions on language or some questions, but there was general support. I think that's a fair summary.
Thank you. Mr. Farrington, any comments?
I do have some comments, yes, Mr. Chairman. I can include those now, or I can include those when you're ready to take a roll call vote.
Well, I'd take them now because I want to take the roll call vote as soon as your comments are
Okay, sure thing. I appreciate that courtesy. Yeah, I do have a couple thoughts on this. I'd like to say that I'm disappointed in the way that events have unfolded over the last 3 days, and I'm probably not the only one. After reflecting on it a little bit further, I think that partly I may have been at fault, and I should have abstained rather than casting a no vote. I'll chalk that one up as a rookie mistake. However, with that said, I do believe that the communication among us on this could have been much better. I think that some of the communication challenges might lie with the open meeting law, especially as it applies to a newly formed 5-member board. We're all trying to, figure out our footing in that circumstance, in that dynamic. But much of it, in this particular instance, I think lies with us. As I said the other night, I've been on the job now for about 8 weeks. I'm trying to get my sea legs here. And I would classify our communication as needs improvement. As it applies to this agenda item, I would classify it as woefully inadequate. I think that if we publicly establish that we're going to take a revote on a matter, and the time and the place for that subsequent revote meeting is agreed to and decided upon, I don't think that we should then deviate from that the very next day, which is what occurred. And moving forward, I would very much like to prevent that from happening again. As my colleagues, I hope that each of you interprets what I'm saying in the spirit for which it is intended. I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers. I'm not trying to antagonize anyone. My objective in making these comments is simply to grow and to improve collectively as a governing body. That's all I have.
So just in response to your comment, we have 2 issues relative to that reason for the change. One is I now have to leave the state, will be out of the state in the state of Vermont on Monday to attend a funeral, which I would not be able to be here for quorum. I believe Mr. Zulus had echoed to us at the meeting the other day that he could not be here on Monday. My concern was that we would not even have a quorum, and given the urgency of this legislation and the July date, as was clearly articulated to us by Attorney Doherty, I scheduled it for tonight under the parameters under the open meeting law, so we'd meet the timeline to be able to have an open meeting and dialogue tonight. Again, just in my last comment to this is a motion that was passed by the majority and is going to go forward. I only scheduled this out of fairness to allow each of us, the 5 of us, to possibly vote in unanimity. Unison. I know, I just came from the dentist, so my lip is still numb. And that is the purpose, that's the reason why it was moved to tonight. And as you participating yourself, I knew that the statute does allow for communications of this manner. We've done this in the past, and you could see that you were doing that. So given that, I am going to go to a roll call vote for both Mr. Farrington and Mrs. Collins, and I'll begin with Mrs. Collins. Your vote on, wait a minute, hold on.
We need a motion.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
we're going to make a motion to make unanimous.
go ahead, I'll accept that.
I'll make a motion to make unanimous the vote with respect to the draft amendment provided by Mr. Doherty at our meeting on Monday, June 5th, 2018.
Have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion on the vote? Hearing none. Mrs. Collins?
Aye.
She votes affirmative. Mr. Farrington?
I vote in favor to support.
Thank you. I believe that concludes our business for tonight. Oh, we still have to vote again?
Yeah, just because it's the motion to make unanimous, so we should.
Yes.
Ms. Conlon? Mr. Zulus? Mr. Wells, yes. That's a unanimous vote by the 5 members of the board to support Attorney Doherty's legislation as presented to us on the 25th of June. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
So moved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mike.